Shogun episode 8 was the most intense episode this season. I don't even know where to begin. Guys, I'm Shalon. Welcome to the Bin Zone. Let's just dive into episode 8 and break down just Toranaga's master plan. We have to take a moment of silence. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't seen episode 8, go watch it. Let's take a moment of silence for Hiromatsu. My man sacrificed his life for the cause, and the pain that it caused Toranaga has been suffering nothing but L's for the past few episodes. Let's start the beginning of the episode, and they're mourning the death of his son Nagakado. And the fact that his son slipped, died, and busted his head. As great as Toranaga is for his son to be a failure, but his son's death did grant him 49 days of mourning. And throughout this season, we've been getting a lot of different traditional Japanese customs. 49 days of mourning and grieving is very considerate, but the fact that Toranaga is the sworn enemy of the nation, you would think you have him cornered, backed up. Why would you give him 49 days to grieve and also plan, which ultimately is what Toranaga was doing? So even though his son died terribly, his son's sacrifice was not in vain. Nagakado's death allowed his father more time. 2 months of planning. 2 months is enough time to reassess the situation, attack Ishido and Osaka. Toranaga sees this, Hiromatsu sees this. However, Omi, Yabushige, as well as Blackthorn, they can't see past their own lives, their own self-interest to realize, yo, maybe he has a plan. They're so focused on the fact that they don't want to die that they're willing to take actions into their own hands. And Blackthorn disavowed Toranaga and tried to swear allegiance to Yabushige by appeasing Yabushige's ego. We know Yabushige does not want to die, period. So of course he's going to entertain Blackthorn. And I found this interaction interesting because ultimately they were the first two to form that bond on that cliff. And the fact that that came full circle and they see that they're both mutually beneficial to one another, I like that joining, I like that alliance, and I knew it was something that was bound to happen because Yabushige was always interested. He was the one who spared Blackthorn initially, so he always saw his value and the value of his ship and his weapons. And the fact that they did that alliance, Yabushige initially did not want to go through with it, but after what Hiromatsu did at the end, he and Blackthorn became allies and they joined forces. They're not gonna surrender. They're gonna go to Osaka and they're gonna start some shit. That is the plan. And the fact that Toranaga foresaw this and knew they were gonna act accordingly, this man is playing 4D chess while everyone is just looking out for their own self-interest. Speaking of self-interest and looking out for yourselves, I want to take a second to talk about Buntaro and Miracle, because I've done a complete 360 on this relationship, where initially I didn't really like Buntaro. This is your wife, she's gorgeous, why would you treat her this way? But as the series progressed, we come to find out that he loves her. He's just trying to find a way for her to feel something, so that's why he's so rough and abusive. Because if you're not going to feel love, you're going to, I don't agree with the methodology, but ultimately he loves her. And when he thought that he could grant her the one thing she's always wanted, death, she said the coldest line I've ever. I cried. Buntaro cried, I cried. I felt that pain. This man loves the ground she walks on. And for her to say, you don't understand me, Buntaro. It's not that I want a death. It's that I don't want anything to. I would rather live 1,000 lives than to die an eternity with you. What? What she wants is the greatest distance from him, but I don't understand why. Granted, he was a dick. He's been abusive. She never wanted him. We saw that in the flashback. She just closed down in her 8-foot fence and never once tried to open up to him. That goes against her religion, doesn't it? She practices Japanese cultures. She's also Christian, but we know she's not above adultery. I completely kind of flipped on this dynamic. I used to be Team Miracle, but now seeing what Buntaro's willing to do, this man is the greatest warrior in Toranaga's army. He's willing to give you the world if you just give him an inch. A micro-centimeter, but she's not gonna give him anything. And that line, Blackthorn takes 2 showers a week and she'd rather be with him than Buntaro. That is wild and that is hurtful and I feel his pain. But I do want to talk about the crux of the episode, and that is the confrontation between Toranaga and his vassals. Ultimately, they were showing signs of rebellion. They don't want to give in to Ishido. Some of them even wore their battle armor to the funeral to show some form of defiance against this. They want to fight. They're with it. We can take them. Like, they don't want to cower out, but Toranaga is a patient man. Toranaga likes to take his time and plan things out, and he's cornered currently. Hiromatsu never gives up on him. Ultimately, in the end, Hiromatsu does the greatest sacrifice of all. He commits seppuku for the greater good of Toranaga. Hiromatsu has been with him since he was a child. In the flashback, it was him that stood next to Toranaga, the boy general, and ultimately they had a difference of opinion. But Hiromatsu knew that Toranaga would not let a life go in vain, because that's always been Toranaga's thing. So even though he killed himself and he had Buntaro, his son, Buntaro got the gift that he always gave his wife, the gift of life. Now he kind of sees what Miracle feels a little bit when you want the release of death, but you're denied it. Like, I like that switch in that scene as well. Hiromatsu has got to be one of the best characters of this show. The fact that he rode out from Osaka to warn Toranaga, like, he's been ride or die. He's the definition of that. He literally rode and he literally just seppuku'd and died for the cause. And that is enough to stir Toranaga's plans, because Toranaga knew if he acted a certain way, it would cause rebellion. Ishido's watching him. Oshiba is also watching him, and he knows that they are against him. They're smart. So if he retracts his generals and does a full frontal attack, they're gonna get smashed. But with this ruse, this diversion, and the fact that Hiromatsu killed himself for the cause to buy Toranaga more time, more grieving time maybe, because he's grieving Nagasato and now he's grieving his right-hand man. That's giving him more time. That's also letting the Ajin as well as Yabushige go to Osaka and fuck shit up. Using that diversion, and we knew this was a plan when Miracle came in and he sent her with them to make sure and be his eyes and ears in Osaka. I don't know what's happening next. I don't know if his plan's gonna work ultimately, but I do know one thing. Hiromatsu deserves a hero's death. Hiromatsu is my favorite character, and this episode had me at the edge of my seat. I did not think Hiromatsu would die, but when he committed seppuku, Toranaga did not fold. The strength of Toranaga to do that, and the strength of Hiromatsu to stake his life on the fact that he believes Toranaga will do something and not let his life be in vain, this might be the top 2 episode of Shogun. I have to see what the rest of the season is looking like, but just the interpersonal dynamics, and we didn't even get to Ishido and him trying to marry Ochiba and trying to consolidate power. Like, that in itself, like, I used to have some respect for him, but now I have none. He's nothing but a bureaucrat who doesn't see past his own ambitions, and ultimately, Toranaga's gonna outsmart all of them and ultimately become the Shogun of Japan, because he's walking in the shadows of great men, trying to go after the Oshiba instead of focusing his eyes on the prize. Letting Toranaga get those 49 days is his greatest mistake. Following tradition and not striking and being more cunning is his mistake. But anyway, guys, that's my thoughts on the episode. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and until next time, binge on.